Welcome to the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast, where we share real-life experiences for successful Caribbean property entrepreneurs. Learn about their successes, challenges, and strategies to help you create your plan for financial freedom. Now let's get started.
Welcome to episode 9 of the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast.
We want to thank you for your support thus far, from Bahamas, Cayman Islands, all the way down to Guyana. We appreciate the support, appreciate the questions and the feedback. Today, we continue in our series, Women in Property, in celebrating International Women's Month 2021, under the theme, Choose to Challenge. Our special guest today is an accountant by profession, a CEO who also has many other entrepreneurial ventures. Please join me in welcoming our guest today, Miss Karen Peter.
Good afternoon, Ansem. Thanks for having me this afternoon. How are you?
We're good. We're good. We are happy that you're able to make time for us today. This month is a very, very important month, and we felt it was fittingly appropriate, as we used to say in Jamaica, to have you on board. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name is Karen Fontenelle-Peter. I was born in St. Lucia, so I'm a St. Lucian by birth. I am the 9th, I believe, of 11 siblings. St. Lucia, Castries is where I was brought up, in more specifically Hospital Road. What got me into property was my first house in 2007. I saw space at the bottom of the house and I'm like, why not? Why should I be paying the mortgage all by myself? I can have some other investment where I can get help in paying the mortgage, as at the time a single woman. So I decided to build the bottom of my house. It was a 3-bedroom house. I decided to build 2 apartments at the bottom, and that went very well. I was a little standoffish and wondering, why should I do that at this juncture when I'm running a company and I may not have time to follow every aspect of the construction. So I got a very good friend of mine who understood my challenges in terms of my commitment to my current job, and decided her husband, who's a contractor, would come and build for me. I have no headaches. He just gave me a price, and that was his contract price. I gave him the money and he constructed. To be honest, weeks on end would pass and the construction was happening below my house, and I never went to see what was going on because I trusted that contractor. I trusted my friend. I wouldn't say that I'll do it with any other contractor. So don't get me wrong. Don't just leave it for a couple of weeks. You need to be on it every step of the way, as with my other properties that I was there every single day.
I have a question, Karen. So you decided you wanted to get supplementary income for your mortgage. Before deciding what to do downstairs, did you think of potential rental prices? What was like some of the rationale in your mind in determining what to do downstairs, how big, what size, how many bedrooms, and what kind of rental you can expect? What are some of your thinking there?
First and foremost, I figured I probably would be able to get 50% of my mortgage paid. That was one of the drivers. So that was the first thing, how much return I could get on that investment. What I would do before I even approach the banks, I would work out, I have this mortgage calculator. So I'd work out my own DSR, which is my debt service ratio. I'd work out, what sort of income, what sort of demand there is for housing in that location. And then I run my numbers. And once the numbers come back right, then I approach the bank. So when I approach the bank, I already have all the information without them having to tell me, you qualified or not. I will not approach the bank if I don't know I'm not I'm qualified. So I do all my numbers.
So after that first house, tell us about another project that you would have done.
Okay, so after building the 2 apartment buildings downstairs, I decided to do a 4th well, it would be a third apartment. So it turned into like a 4-bedroom apartment because the first one was a 3-bedroom. I did two beneath, and then I did one to the top. That's the apartment that is on the first structure. A couple years went by. I bought a property, land, and I decided I'm going to build a 4-apartment building on it. And one of the reasons was, I guess, the ease and the seamless nature as to how the first builder built for me. I decided that let me do this again to do my second project, which was a fixer-upper, really, a building that had been down for a little while. And once I saw the building, I saw the end product. So again, with coming up with the rationale, I always see the end product and then I work my way towards the end. So when I saw that property, it was a fixer-upper. It was actually a twin building. One of the buildings was about, I would say, 75% complete. The other building was about 45% complete. When I saw this one, which was already constructed, it just needed finishing. I felt that it would have been best served if I decided to complete that one. It was more readily available. I figured I could have done it within a year. I picked the right contractor and was able to get the projects, both buildings, down within a year or under a year.
So so far you've done 2 fixer-uppers. And I've always said that I find the fixer-uppers more challenging. But maybe later on I might look at one. But in terms of my own appetite, for investing, I prefer new builds. But what are some of those challenges that you experienced in the first build and the second project? What are some of those challenges like?
I think for me, one of the greatest challenge was time, because whilst the first building, when I decided to do those apartments, I had a contractor that I was able to close my eyes and allow him to do. The second one, I felt I wanted to be there because there were certain things that I wanted to make the decision on and not wait when I get home from work to see it's already done.
Were there any hidden surprises? Because that's one of the greatest fears of persons who do not want to do fixer-uppers. For me, I don't want to have any big surprises. What were some of the surprises that you may have stumbled across in those renovation projects?
Some of the surprises, while they're not very huge, but in the morning you get a call, I need this, I need that, I need the next, for them to work today. For me, that's another big challenge. If you don't watch it, I mean, you have a full-time job, so you can't get up and go to the store every time somebody calls for something. So you set it straight from early o'clock. You have to know what you're doing for the week. You have to have a work schedule, a project timeline. You have to know what you're doing for the week. So don't call me to say, I want 500 blocks on a Monday morning when you knew you needed those blocks Friday when you walked off the site. And like I said, it may not necessarily be the contractor, but again, the contractor is ultimately responsible because they have to check the job site and look at what they need and what the plan is for the next week. So those are some of the challenges that I face.
Now, you and I have spoken about it before, and that is raising the standards of construction as it relates to accountability and liability and a registry for contractors. Share with us your vision for that space and that type of arrangement that we think that we need to get to.
Okay, so my vision, and like you said, Ansem, you and I have spoken about it quite a lot. My vision is we need to regularize the industry. I don't think there's any formal setting for contractors or builders or wannabes and those budding ones. But I believe the time is now and the stage should be set. And with the impetus from architects, engineers, all those other institutions, because it's easy to put the institution together. Somebody just has to take the bull by the horn and get it going. So once you can get those architects, engineers, and all those persons supporting and laying out what obtains, what the standards are, because I am not certain that some of the contractors even know what the standards are. They they built a house with a contractor, and they saw what the contractor did, and by the next day they were contractors, they were builders.
It's true. It's
And
true.
there's a difference between builders and contractors. There's a big difference. And I believe they need to be guided and governed by a standard. They need to be governed by rules and regulations and laws. And they must not be afraid of it, because it would be more of a benefit to them getting under that umbrella, because at that point you'd have an institution who, if the tables were turned, where a customer, a client is trying to be dishonest about paying them for their services, there is an institution they can go to as well. So it's not only to penalize them or to see what they're doing wrong, but it's to regularize the entire industry for both the client and the builder or contractor. But what it would do, it would raise the standards for all
Yeah.
contractors, because they
Yeah.
know there is a platform. So contractors, knowing that there is a platform, would sign on and put in all their credentials and all what they've done. It forces the young contractors to get qualified. Because when you go on that platform and you see all these contractors with all the experience and all the qualifications and all the certification, you don't want to get on that platform with just, I have watched somebody build a house a couple times. You want to get certified. So it really pushes one to get certified and raises the bar for construction as a whole, the entire industry, and all the stakeholders who operate in the space.
And the end result will obviously be an approved list of certified contractors with reviews and ratings. We know
That's correct.
certain insurance plans and liability measures
That's
put in
correct.
place. So there's a measure of confidence and competence. Now, stick up in it.
Yes.
You spoke, over a number of times about putting all the numbers in place. Now, the financing part of property investing is perhaps the biggest challenge for most people. A lot of the feedback we've
Mhm.
gotten from our viewers and listeners is around, one that we may look, we may make property investing look, you know, like it doesn't have as much risk, or people have money. And my response to that typically is that no, it doesn't matter where you're starting from, where you are today, but you must always start from somewhere. And at the beginning, there would have been sacrifice, and everything is done incrementally. Why don't you share with our viewers and listeners kind of your basic metrics for working at your numbers? What you look at, especially when it came to, okay, you see a property, you want it. What are some of the considerations, both in terms of your own budgeting and what you expect to get out? What does that process look like? So people can get a guide, so they don't think that, okay, because you're an accountant, you know it already, that you can kind of break down for them and say, okay, I've heard that, I can follow from there.
Okay, so the first thing is, will I be able to afford the property? So I run the numbers. Two, where it's located, what the market is requiring. For example, I personally believe post-COVID, hopefully it will be soon enough, that there will be a rush for a lot of Airbnbs and short-term rentals, because people, I believe, they've learned a lot, quite a bit out of COVID, and let me live the life now. I'm not even going to wait to live it next year or the year after. So there'll be a rush for persons coming in from the larger countries and wanting to just spread their wings and just enjoy life. So I believe if I were to think of a property now, I would look at location. I would also look at, like I said, the financing capabilities, if I can afford it. I'll also look at other investors partnering with persons as well, because sometimes you can't do it all. You share the risk and you share the rewards just the same. I would also look at how big can I go? Sometimes it's better to do 4 apartments than to do 2. It's more economical to do 4. You might as well go the whole 9 yards. because you know the revenue and returns you'll get from it will be exponential at that time. So apart from just running the numbers and the banks, having an appetite to finance you, and there, speaking of the banks, there are many banks who are open to financing and funding a lot of projects once they can see how the monies can be generated. So I would suggest that persons don't be afraid to go to the banks. The banks are always willing. And once it's a property that, like I said, can generate income and a property that they can hold as security, you're fine. As to the level of security, you may have to have one or two other things, but for the most part, once it has enough security, and that's the beauty about buying fixer-uppers. And so sometimes you get it at a really good price. So by the time you decide to fix it and you work out, you get the bill of quantities and you work out the value of the property after, you may not even need additional security, because it's actually, by that time, it would probably triple the value based on how and what you do with it. So I would suggest persons, you look at all of those things and don't be afraid to invest. Look at the market, look at what's happening around you, look at the locations. A lot of Airbnb persons, when they phone in or they email, they ask for, are you near a beach? Are you near a bus route? Are you near a supermarket? Are you near the activities, the Friday night activities? So those are some of the things. So this would help you plan around where you want to purchase the property, how much of it you want to invest in, and take it from there. Don't let the numbers scare you.
How do I make myself finance ready? How do I make myself finance ready or financially attractive to an institution other than just a big salary? Let's say I'm on a moderate salary. How do I make myself attractive to a financial institution?
Start small and be successful. So you don't have to go big now. So like I started with my 3-bedroom house in 2007, and I did the first 2 apartments and extension, and then I did the 3rd apartment out of pocket. So I had a proven track record at that point, and it was income generating as well. I believe in properties, acquiring properties must be income generating. I think very few, I may be wrong, but I believe a lot of persons who are going into mortgages now see the value of additional apartments. So they buy a house on pillars. More than not, houses on pillars will sell faster than the ones on the ground, because they see later on they can build the bottom, do one at a time. A lot of persons, couples, single people, look to building additional apartment space to subsidize, whether it's mortgages, it doesn't necessarily have to be mortgage, just to subsidize other income.
Now, focusing on our women in property kind of area,
Theme.
do you think that women are treated differently when dealing with contractors versus others? And obviously, you have the benefit of working in the field, in because of your Caribbean metals background. But do you think that women are treated differently? And if you think so, what can they do to ensure that nobody takes them for a ride, or they get treated as equally as they should?
Without knocking my contractors, there may be some, I'm sure, that believe because it's a woman, they believe she doesn't know anything, and they can give them a 6 for a 9. She will not be able to tell one from the next the quality. I told her I'm going to buy this, and then she comes and she wouldn't question. And I believe possibly because women don't question, and I know there are some women who would really question whether they're into construction or not. They will question. That's inherent in their nature. But I believe, yes, that some persons, some contractors out there would believe that because the woman is not in tune and she's not, and mind you, the man might be just as bad, not in tune, but they assume because he's a man, he knows. Sometimes the woman know more than him, to be honest.
Yep. For sure.
I think it's important. I think it's important that the women, once you decide you want to construct your home, you know what is involved every step of the way. What materials you procuring, the quality of your material, how much of the material you're procuring, in terms of the builder giving you a price that you insist that he sticks with that price. You go on your site, you spend time, ask a lot of questions. The contractor has to answer. Don't feel you're a bother. Why is that? And why is this? And that is how you learn. And by the time you're done with your first house, once it's on pillars, I guarantee you'll want to put an apartment downstairs, whether it's for a gym, for income generating, an office. You want to do that because you have already educated yourself on the do's and don'ts and the know-hows. You don't have to mix the cement yourself. You don't have to pour it yourself. You don't have to tie the steel yourself. But you want to know. Ask the questions. Be on your site.
So, Karen, our last question. What would you say, what advice would you give to a young lady, or maybe not so young, renting, or maybe at a parent's home, or living with a partner, who's seen this and thinking, okay, what should I be thinking of if I wanted to get the property? How do I start? What advice would you give them?
Okay, so the advice I would give is the same advice I give to young persons all the time. So you're looking at the numbers again. Like you said earlier, I'm into finance. So you'd probably be renting for about $1,000 a month, because right now, if you get something at $800, it may not necessarily be the best. You may not have the amenities. It may not be in the location you would like it to be. So say you're renting for about $1,000, $1,200. You want to procure a piece of land. So the land probably might be $50,000, $60,000, or even say $100,000. So that land, you may end up paying, say, $1,000 a month in mortgage for that land. So you're already renting for $1,000. You're paying a land mortgage for $1,000 because you would like to purchase a piece of land because that's where you want to start. But did you know the terms on land is much more stringent than the terms on a complete mortgage, which is house and land. So your land, you have shorter years at a higher interest rate. On a mortgage, you have more competitive rates, lower rates, and you have a longer time, especially if you're very young. You asked about young people, especially if you're very young. They go up to age 65. So $1,000 in land that you hoping to save a lot of money to have a deposit or what have you. But again, the banks don't even, some of the banks, a lot of the banks don't even ask for a deposit now when you actually constructing a home. Sometimes they do 100% financing, which is excellent. So you're paying $2,000, rent for $1,000 and $2,000. Guess what? Do you know you could have actually had house and land for roughly $350,000 in a house and land, whether you build it or you buy it, or anywhere between $300 and $350, paying the same $2,000. Yeah. While I'm a property developer and a landlord, I would still say it out loud that you can actually own your own home. I will always get rent because persons will start there. But you can actually own your own home because the monies you're paying in the rent and the monies you're paying towards your land, you don't buy that land. Buy that land in conjunction with building a house immediately. So any young person who's renting now and looking to get into home ownership, you do it now. Do it when you're young, because the younger you are, the more years the bank give you to pay the mortgage. The repayment is very small. When you're in income generating properties, I often tell persons as well, you have to have some sort of disposable income. So try to balance between the length of time you take to pay a mortgage and the disposable income you'll have on a monthly basis so you can do other things. I know there are some persons who I would say from old school learn from their grandmother and all these people that don't want mortgages, they don't want, or if they get a mortgage, you want to pay in the fastest possible time. But guess what? You'll pay it up in the fastest possible time, all good and well. But at the same time, is there any disposable income for you to enjoy the other finer things in life? So you strike that
Correct.
balance. Yeah, you strike that balance. So I would say look at going into owning your property immediately once you have the age, you have the job that can repay the mortgage, and always try to build the property with the idea of having to expand, build the bottom, build the side. Always have that in mind. Even when you position in your property, always try to position your property where there's always parking space. I notice a couple people who would put down a house and there's all the space in the back. I guess they're probably thinking of planting and there's absolutely no space in the front for parking, and then they have to park on the road. So the idea is always look at your land size and don't let the builder or the architect or the engineer alone tell you. Look at it for yourself as well, because what they may be thinking is not what you're thinking. You may be thinking of a pool in the back later on. You never said it out loud, and he wants to put it in the back. You may be thinking of the pool in the front, or a parking, or some kind of, entertainment lounge in the front, and your architect gives you the information. So have that dialogue and have that discussion where it's going to be located, what you need to do in the back, what you need to do in the front. And the two of you all come up with, something that's amicable, something that you'll enjoy. Because remember, once that house is placed, and then the columns have gone up, the deck has gone in, the roof, like you said, and all of that, you can't ship the house from one location to the next. So plan all of that. Feel comfortable that what is being laid out for you by the architects and the engineers and your builder, that you're comfortable with it, you like it, and you take everything into consideration. See yourself in the house. See yourself in your backyard. See yourself in your front yard. See yourself with friends over. Full house. And then decide. But do that first. If you intend to build in the future or buy land, I suggest you do house and land once you can afford it. And I'll guarantee you, more than not, if you're renting and you buy a piece of land, you'll be able to afford a mortgage. Start small.
Wow. So much information here, and people are surprised that no matter what stage in property you are, you still learn so much speaking to other property developers. I like what you said. You said, start small, be successful at it, but also don't be afraid to go big. And that sounds almost paradoxical, but I understand where you're coming from. And it's important for our listeners and viewers to understand when a property developer says go big, it typically means that there are economies of scale to be achieved, because the size may scale our people, but the incremental cost for the incremental revenue is not 1-to-1. It's probably 0.25 to 1, because I may spend, as I've always said before, I spend 25% more on a building, but I get 100% more revenue. So these key nuggets were very, very useful.
I will also tell you, persons who are going into property for income generating, they must always understand that not from the get-go that you will be able to cover everything. There are years that will go by where you will not see profit, if for want of a better word. You still find yourself paying the mortgage and paying the property tax and paying the this and that and the next. The profits normally come after 5 years or even more than that, to see the true benefit. But what you would have is an income generating property, something that pays for itself, that doesn't put you out of pocket. And you could live with it for a little while until you start to see the benefits of it. One of the things I do is, there are a lot of things I think about. I wake up in the morning, I go on a particular site, and I see a lot of projects I can do. I always see a lot. Financially, if I can do it, maybe not. Then I feel motivated that, you know what? Yeah, I'm sure the bank will give me a loan. So what I do, you have to have a business plan. Must have a business plan. This is my business plan. These are my markets. This is what I'm expecting. This is what I run with it. And ensure that when you do that business plan, that is in keeping with everything that's happening around you, at the macro level. It must make sense.
Your pest analysis.
That's correct. It must make sense. The banks, remember the banks as well, they're people like you and I as well. And whilst they know what they're looking for, you have to have a sound business plan and something that they would recognize makes sense. They know they're obviously on the side of the bank in terms of ensuring that you are able to pay back the returns on that investment, but don't be afraid to put the business plan down. Don't be afraid and think that you cannot achieve it. I will tell you, I'm a risk taker. Half of the times I don't even know how it's going to be financed, but I see a lot of stuff that can be done. And don't be afraid to partner with persons. Sometimes two is better than one. Sometimes we think, oh, if we do it alone, and and we have to get out of that. We need to partner with each other. Women need to partner with women. You need to partner with men as well, but just partner with each other. There is strength in numbers. The ideas that comes pouring out when you have more than one person, and not only just partner with one person, you can partner with a group. A group of persons, a group of young ladies could say, there is a project. I know the government has rolled out some, I would call it PPPs, where they would make lands available to developers, and the developers would put down structures. I believe the government, correct me if I'm wrong, agreed to purchase a percentage, I think, and that was back then. I don't know if it still obtains 10% of, so if you build 100 houses, the government will purchase 10 houses, and obviously to give to persons who are destitute and what have you. And so I urge persons to take advantage of that. There are developments coming up where the land is being made available, the infrastructure will be in, so you don't have to worry about that. Light, water, telecoms, all of that will be in place. Partner with a group of your friends. Let's do 5. There's concessions, for if you do 5 or more houses, you get concessions for it. So take advantage of the concessions. I don't know how long it's going to last, but take advantage of the concessions. Partner with somebody. I am eyeballing some of that so I could partner with a couple of persons to take advantage of.
Maybe on the podcast, Karen, we can launch the Caribbean Investors Syndicate or Caribbean Investors Club or something like that. But of course, all of that must be backed by very strong legal framework, to ensure that everything is clear and everything is the way it should be. Well, Karen, yes. Thank you again for your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for joining us. We really hope that your message reaches a lot of people, especially women looking into property, being interested, and the public at large. So this has been another edition of the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast. We've been very, very happy and honored to host our Women in Property series, March 2021, commemorating International Women's Day and International Women's Month. Until next time, see you.
Congratulations and thank you for tuning in to the Caribbean's first property investing podcast. We want to help Caribbean people create wealth and achieve financial freedom through property investing. Our show provides general advice based on personal experiences and is for educational purposes only. For more information, resources, and past episodes, visit us at CaribbeanPropertyInvesting.com. Remember to click the subscribe button so you never miss a show. Let's go.